What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Triple Z podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Henry. The 76ers are now 4-9 without Joel Embiid in their last 13 games after a 117-99 loss to the Celtics. Philly sits in the 6th seed, only 5.5 games above the 8th seed with no time frame of Joel Embiid's return. And in this matchup against the Celtics, we really saw where Joel Embiid's presence is missed for the 76ers without his scoring, his rebounding, and his defense. And that's where Boston took the advantage in this matchup because without Joel Embiid, Philadelphia is a much smaller team with Batum and Paul Reed playing the 4 and the 5. So you saw Boston players posting up a lot more like Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. And since there's no true big men in the middle for the Sixers because Paul Reed's only 6'9", you saw a lot of Boston Celtics players getting inside the painted area and scoring efficiently at the rim. Boston was able to score 64 points in the paint, and since Boston's a much bigger team than Philadelphia with Porzingis, Al Horford, Jason Tatum, and all those guys, they were able to get the advantage on the glass, out-rebounding the 76ers 56-28. Philly also really struggled to, contest shots without fouling. They sent the Celtics to the free throw line 37 times. Brown, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. Kristaps Porzingis, 12 of 12. And Tatum, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. And it wasn't like Boston ran over Philadelphia because it was one of those games for the Celtics where they weren't shooting efficiently from the three-point line. They only went 2 of 12 from 3 in the first half, and they turned over the basketball 9 times. So that's what kept Philly in this game in the first half. That's what kept them in striking distance. And Tyrese Maxey scored 17 points in the first half. He scored in bunches with the floaters, getting out in transition. His three-point shot, whether it was a pull-up three, step back three, he was able to do it in all types of sorts, scoring the basketball efficiently and effectively. And he's definitely in that number one option since Joel Embiid's out, so he has to do a lot more offensively to keep this 76ers team in this basketball game against the best team in the entire association. And come at the end of halftime, Philadelphia is only down by 2 points, 53-51 to the Celtics. And Boston in this situation right now, heading into the second half, they're on a 7-game winning streak, haven't lost to an Eastern Conference team at home at all this season, and they're in a close matchup against the 76ers without Joel Embiid. So what does Boston do come halftime? They go on an 11-0 run to start the third quarter, and they really attacked Philadelphia's defense to the point where it resulted in Boston taking 14 free throws in the third quarter. And something that caused Philly to not get it going offensively was Boston's ability to switch everything on the perimeter. I mean, when we talk about the Boston Celtics, their calling card is defense. They're one of the best defensive teams, especially having the best defensive backcourt with Drew Holiday and Derek White, having 2 great wing defenders in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And we know what Kristaps Porzingis can do with his rim protection and shot blocking ability. So I think that's what really caused Philadelphia to struggle offensively. And going into the fourth quarter, that's where Tatum really took over, scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter, taking defenders off the dribble, getting to the free throw line, finishing at the rim effectively and efficiently. And Boston ends up extending their winning streak to 9 games in a row, which means that Philadelphia has lost another game without Joel Embiid. And Philadelphia is struggling without Joel Embiid, 7-14 without him for the entire season, and Maxey has to do a lot more offensively. But it shouldn't only be Tyrese Maxey, uplifting this Philly team, because Tobias Harris in his last 4 games against legit Eastern Conference teams, legit Eastern Conference contenders, he's been a little bit of a no-show offensively. Against the New York Knicks in a loss, he scored 7 points, 3 of 9 from the field. In a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 15 points, 6 of 14. Against Milwaukee at Philadelphia, he scored 8 points, 3 of 11 shooting. Against the Boston Celtics, 13 points, 5 of 19 shooting. That's not going to get the job done. Same thing with Buddy Hield, who was acquired at the trade deadline to be on the 76ers roster for his three-point shooting, his spacing on the floor, and his ability to move without the basketball. He's been a little bit of a no-show. He's been a little streaky shooting the basketball. Against the Knicks, 14 points, 5 of 15 shooting. Against the Cavs, 13 points, 5 of 9 shooting. Against Milwaukee, 11 points, 4 of 13 shooting. And against the Boston Celtics, 6 points, 2 of 8 shooting. Those 2 players need to step it up to help Tyrese Maxey, help this team overall. Because I know what Tyrese Maxey is going to do for the 76ers team. There's a reason why he's an all-star. There's a reason why he's averaging a career high in, most stats. And he's been playing phenomenal with and without Joel Embiid. But he can only do so much. So definitely need Tobias Harris and Buddy Hield to step into that second and third option in order to give Philadelphia a chance to make the playoffs or avoid the play-in. Because what I've been thinking lately, for Philly, they definitely want to avoid the play-in situation. Because if they fall into the 7th, 8th seed And their schedule coming up is not easy. Like their remaining schedule, they got a couple of games that look really difficult for them to win without Joel Embiid and no time frame for his return. They have 2 games at the Knicks, at Milwaukee. They have another game at Phoenix, at the Lakers, at the Clippers, at Sacramento, at Cleveland, at Dallas. They still have a game against, the Pelicans, the Thunder, Miami Heat, and the Orlando Magic. So they have a tough schedule coming up in the next couple of weeks with no idea when Joel Embiid is going to come back from his injury. And what Philly, their best option is avoid the play-in, which is easier said than done, especially with the teams I just named that they have to go against still. Avoid the play-in, because if you're in that 5th or 6th seed and you avoid the play-in, that means you give Joel Embiid more time to return from his injury. You're going to have him a little bit more healthier coming back to the lineup. But if you fall into that play-in situation, I believe Philadelphia is going to be in a position where they kind of question, do we bring Joel Embiid back? Because like I said, those remaining games are going to be tough without Joel Embiid. And if, Philly loses 10 of those games, like 12 of those games, bad, like tremendously, to the point where like they're in the gutter in the play-in situation, do you bring Joel Embiid back? Because you don't want to bring Joel Embiid back if he's only 80%. And you're bringing him back for like a playing game, meaning that he has to put a lot more wear and tear on his body. So if you're only bringing him back at 80% to the play-in, and let's say they make it out of the play-in, and then you got to face like Boston, Milwaukee, or Cleveland in like the first round, it's like, what's Philly gonna do? Because I truly believe if Joel Embiid's not healthy, if he's not 100% healthy, Philadelphia has no chance. They have absolutely no chance against any team in the Eastern Conference, any contending teams in the Eastern Conference, because the East is really competitive, especially at the top. Those 4 seeds where it's, I believe Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, and the Knicks. I mean, those are 4 teams that could potentially make it to the conference finals and maybe even the finals and represent the Eastern Conference. But for Philly, they definitely need Joel Embiid 100% if they want to contend in the East. And I believe if he's not 100% and if Philly's in the play-in situation and they're down bad, I feel like you got to shut down Joel Embiid. There's no point, because let's be honest, they're not going to win anything if Joel Embiid's not 100%. I don't care if he's 99%. I don't care if he's 95%. I don't care. If he's not 100%, 100% healthy, they have no chance. They have no chance. I think they should have shut him down for the season and, try again next season. And it's going to be crazy because if you shut him down, that means it's another season where he doesn't make it past the second round. Joel Embiid, for a player of his status to be the reigning MVP, to be, playing this season at a dominant level from the beginning of the season until he got injured, for him to not even make it past the second round, to not even be in the conference finals, that's kind of shocking to believe. That's really shocking to hear, because when it comes to Joel Embiid, obviously he's dealt with some injuries. Not even some. He's dealt with a lot of injuries to the beginning of his career and to the point where we're at right now in the NBA. Like, him to just be a player of that status and not even go on a deep playoff run, it's really, it hurts to see that. It hurts to see that. It really does, because he was dealing with injuries last postseason. He missed a couple of games against the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, and then we kind of know what happened in the Philly and Celtics series in the second round. So, I mean, Philly's in a tough spot. Do you shut down Joel Embiid if Philadelphia's in the play-in situation? If they're like 10 games back of like, the 6th, 7th seed, like, what do you do at that time point? Do you bring back Joel Embiid even though he's not 100%? Or do you just shut him down? And I think, Philly, that's something they have to think about. That's definitely something they have to think about, because Nick Nurse is in a tough spot, because he has to make adjustments constantly now, because they center their whole entire offense and defense around Joel Embiid. And now you kind of have to do it where you have to really center your offense around Tyrese Maxey, and your defense really has to be a team effort, because Philadelphia doesn't have great individual defenders. I don't know what you think about Tobias Harris. I don't really see him as a great individual defender. Maybe a solid defender, but not a great individual defender. So Philly has to rely more on team defense instead of like individual defense, and not relying on Joel Embiid to do everything defensively. And I think they're really in a tough spot, to the point where, like, do they consider shutting him down, or do they consider bringing him back and kind of risking another injury? I'm not sure. But that's where I'm thinking about the 76ers. It's unfortunate that Joel Embiid's out, but that's inevitable in the game of basketball. So thank you guys for listening to the Triple Z podcast. Please like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know down in the comment section, would you shut down Joel Embiid or would you bring him back even if the Philadelphia 76ers are in the play-in situation? I'll see you guys next time. Zzz.